When most people plan a honeymoon, the default expectation is comfort. You book a flight to Paris, check into a nice hotel, and spend a couple of weeks recovering from the stress of a wedding. Nat and Paul took a different approach. Nat was a casual cyclist who occasionally rode to the local market, while Paul was a dedicated enthusiast. Instead of a luxury resort, they decided to power themselves across their home country. Their logistical goal was staggering. They mapped out a 9,000-kilometer route designed to hit all 77 provinces of Thailand over the course of 159 days. When they pitched the idea, family and friends told them it was impossible. The consensus among everyone was that the severe physical toll and the sheer logistics of crossing the entire nation couldn't be sustained in a single unbroken trip, and they weren't even taking two separate bikes. To do this, they imported a specialized German tandem recumbent bicycle, forcing them to ride every single mile together on one frame. This setup took a grand vacation and turned it into a 9,000-kilometer pressure test. To make it to the finish line, they would have to push their physical endurance to the limit while navigating the complex realities of being newlyweds. This tandem bike's mechanics dictated their travel. Paul took the rear seat, handling the steering, balance, and primary pedaling power. Nat sat up front, completely reclined. Free from steering, she could pedal hands-free, allowing her to check her phone, document the trip, or rest. This unique engineering literally tethered them together. There was no riding ahead to get some space. They were locked into the exact same pace, physically feeling every pedal stroke, mistake, and mood swing the other person experienced. To make this massive loop work without doubling back on themselves, they started down south in Surat Thani, intending to snake their way north before eventually dropping back to the capital. The route dragged them through massive geographical extremes. They pedaled through the southern border provinces and survived the grueling, endless mountain climbs of the north. The daily logistics were brutal. They fought off blistering heat, packed all their gear into 6 small bags, and scrubbed their only set of cycling clothes in a hotel sink every single night just to have something dry to wear by morning. Out in the rural provinces, infrastructure is sparse. A blown tire on an isolated stretch of highway meant they were stranded, dependent on passing locals willing to throw a tandem bike in the back of a pickup. Hitting 77 provinces required immense physical strength, but the actual barrier to finishing was the unglamorous, repetitive daily maintenance of their equipment and basic hygiene. For the first 90 days, the adrenaline of the journey carried them. They were in the classic honeymoon phase, but right around the 3-month mark, the novelty wore off and severe mental fatigue set in. Combine physical exhaustion with a complete lack of personal space, and friction is guaranteed. Being locked onto the same bicycle frame for hours a day meant that every minor frustration quickly snowballed into an argument. To keep moving, they had to adapt emotionally. They learned to let go of minor grievances, give each other grace on the bad days, and prioritize the progress of the ride over winning an argument. Pushing past that 3-month wall proved that the difficulty of the terrain was secondary to the difficulty of the partnership. The real work was managing one another's emotions while operating under constant physical duress. On day 159, they finally rolled into the dense skyline of Bangkok. The physical toll was written on them. Paul had lost nearly 15 kilograms over the course of the trip. They brought back hard proof of their logistical marathon. They carried a travel journal that they had stamped at provincial offices across the country, securing their place in the Thailand Book of Records. Looking back, they realized something about the nature of travel. When you cross a country at the slow speed of a bicycle, you experience the culture exactly as it is, raw, unedited, and deeply kind. Completing 9,000 kilometers on a single machine required a constant cycle of conflict and compromise. By the time they reached Bangkok, they hadn't just finished a tour. They had spent half a year developing a communication system that most couples take decades to build.